God bless you. And this is a beautiful day, and we are so grateful and honored that we have such a phenomenal president. President Trump is really bringing peace around the world. But we're going to dive in early. We want to hear what the DOJ has to say about healthcare fraud. So as we wait for Caroline to do her live press conference. So we're going to go to that right now.
Good morning, everyone.
Stay tuned. God bless.
My name is Matthew Gagliotti, and I'm the head of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. Thank you all for joining us today as we announce the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the history of the Department of Justice.
Wow.
Today marks a decisive moment in our fight to protect American taxpayers from fraudsters and to defend the integrity of America's healthcare system. We are announcing today charges against 324 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes involving approximately $14.6 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. In a takedown this large, I can't possibly describe all of the work that went into dismantling each scheme, but there are 4 key points that bear emphasizing. First, let me be clear about what these healthcare fraud schemes mean for every hardworking American family. These criminals didn't just steal someone else's money, they stole from you. Every fraudulent claim, every fake billing, every kickback scheme represents money taken directly from the pockets of American taxpayers who fund these essential programs through their hard work and sacrifice. And when criminals defraud these programs, they're not just committing theft. They're driving up our national deficit and threatening the long-term viability of healthcare for seniors, disabled Americans, and our most vulnerable citizens. This enforcement action involves cash, as well as luxury vehicles and properties, returning real money to American taxpayers and to our government healthcare programs. Second, we are seeing a disturbing trend of transnational criminal organizations engaging in increasingly sophisticated and complex criminal schemes that defraud the American healthcare system. As part of this takedown, we've identified and charged defendants operating from Russia, Eastern Europe, Pakistan, and other foreign countries. These individuals have infiltrated our healthcare system to steal American taxpayer dollars. As just one example, we dismantled a scheme involving a sophisticated operation run from Russia and Eastern Europe that strategically bought dozens of medical supply companies in the United States and submitted more than $10 billion in fraudulent healthcare claims to Medicare. To make matters worse, these perpetrators used the stolen identities of more than 1 million Americans spanning all 50 states to perpetrate this scheme and submit these false claims. But I'm pleased to report that federal agents intercepted and arrested key members of that organization at U.S. airports and the U.S.-Mexico border, cutting off their intended escape routes. The days of transnational criminal organizations using the American healthcare programs as their personal piggy bank are over. Third, this takedown resulted in criminal charges against 74 defendants, including medical professionals who fueled America's deadly opioid crisis for personal profit. These are not isolated instances of poor judgment. These are calculated schemes designed to exploit Americans struggling with addiction while enriching the very people who were duty-bound to help them heal. We charged pill mill operators who prescribed unnecessary opioids. We dismantled networks of corrupt pharmacies that existed solely to distribute drugs to addicts and dealers, feeding the addiction crisis that has devastated so many American communities. This is not healthcare. It is a staggering breach of trust. And under my leadership, the criminal division will prosecute these criminals as aggressively as we would any drug dealer, because that's exactly what they are. Fourth, Many of the defendants charged as part of this takedown specifically targeted our most vulnerable citizens, elderly Americans in nursing homes, individuals with disabilities, those battling serious illnesses, and more. For example, our prosecutors charged 7 defendants, including 5 medical professionals, in connection with approximately $1 billion in fraudulent claims to Medicare and other healthcare benefit programs for performing medically unnecessary skin grafts on dying patients as they were seeking to spend their final days with dignity and peace. That conduct is exactly as callous and disturbing as it sounds. Patients and their families trusted these providers with their lives. Instead of receiving care, they became victims of elaborate criminal schemes. Today's takedown marks a historic day. In addition to the tireless work of our Fraud Section's Healthcare Fraud Unit, this extraordinary effort would not have been possible without the law enforcement agencies with me here today. Health and Human Services, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Drug Enforcement Administration. And of course, countless partners across the federal, state, and local law enforcement community, and dozens of United States attorneys' offices. Thank you to all who made today possible. Now, despite these historic achievements, we aren't resting on our laurels. We're making advancements to stay ahead of the criminals and their illicit schemes. That is why today I'm also announcing that we are working with our partners at FBI, HHS OIG, and other federal agencies to create a healthcare data fusion center to revolutionize how we detect, investigate, and prosecute healthcare fraud. These efforts will be led by the Criminal Division, specifically the Fraud Section's Healthcare Fraud Unit, and comprised of data specialists from the unit's data analytics team. The Fusion Center will break down information silos using coordinated data analysis to enable our investigative teams to quickly identify and dismantle emerging fraud schemes, preventing money from going out the door. Today's enforcement action represents the largest healthcare fraud takedown in American history. But it's not the end. It's the beginning of a new era of aggressive prosecution and data-driven prevention. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Acting Inspector General Juliet T. Hodgkins, Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Inspector General.
Good morning, and thank you to Mr. Gagliotti and to the Department of Justice for inviting me to join here today. Combating fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicare, Medicaid, and other HHS programs is our mission at the Office of Inspector General. I am proud to be here today representing the tremendous work of our criminal investigations team in this takedown. This unprecedented healthcare fraud takedown is more than twice as large as any past one, having stopped national and global fraud schemes alleged to have resulted in over $14 billion in intended losses. The results announced today were only possible, though, through a strong partnership of federal and state agencies. By working shoulder to shoulder, we harness the best information, tools, and expertise to find criminals, no matter where they hide, and no matter how they try to disguise their crimes. I would especially like to thank DOJ, CMS, FBI, DEA, and our other federal partners that are here today. I would also like to acknowledge the state Medicaid fraud control units, as well as the strong public-private partnership between government and private insurers to combat health fraud. Simply put, criminals go where the money is. Through information sharing, government and the private sector help each other to more efficiently stop fraud. And under our watch, criminals will not be allowed to enrich themselves with dollars meant to improve the health of Americans. One massive fraud scheme that was charged as a part of today's takedown involved multiple purple medical equipment companies that billed Medicare over $10 billion for equipment that patients did not need or that they never received. The good news for the American people is that the alleged criminals in this scheme never got their hands on most of that Medicare and Medicaid money that they tried to steal. Instead, the government coordinated to use our collective tools and authorities to protect taxpayer dollars. This takedown also demonstrates, though, our commitment to shield Americans from harm. The actions taken by our partnership stopped individuals and entities alleged to have used stolen medical identities from over 1 million patients to submit false claims. They preyed on patients who needed addiction services, billing for treatment that was never received. They illegally diverted prescription opioids, millions of pills that continue to fuel the devastating opioid epidemic. But as fraud schemes span borders and jurisdictions, OIG and our partners respond quickly and effectively. And as fraud schemes increasingly exploit technology, we use cutting-edge investigative methods to detect fraud, prevent losses, and protect patients. Before I close today, I must take a moment to applaud the exceptional work of the dedicated OIG professionals that participated in this takedown. Every day, these outstanding law enforcement professionals do the dangerous work of holding criminals accountable. Thank you for your service to the American people. Thank you so much, and I will turn the microphone over now to Dr. Mehmet Oz, the CMS Administrator.
Let me put on my clinician's hat first, because it is my culture, my story. I'm a heart surgeon. And when I hear about this fraud, I think about patients who have trusted us, people who are at their most vulnerable time looking for the protection of our services. And too often these criminal entities have tried to pierce that trust. When you walk into the Health and Human Services building not far from here, there's a quote from Hubert Humphrey, from whom the building is named, and it says, "It is the moral obligation of government," that's what we're doing here today, it's the moral obligation of government to protect those who are at the dawn of their life, our children, those at the twilight of their life, our seniors, and those living in the shadows, folks who are having trouble like the substance use disorder mentioned a second ago by Juliet. I want to applaud all the agencies that collaborated today, because when President Trump signed the executive order on fraud, waste, and abuse, and pledged to crush this reality, this is exactly what he had in mind. At Health and Human Services, under leadership of Secretary Kennedy, we have strived to break down barriers and silos in every way possible. What you're witnessing on stage today is exactly that. The American government at its best, making sure all of us work together for the same common purpose, in this case especially, expressly to protect those who are our most vulnerable. Because all great societies are judged by how they take care of those who are vulnerable. We're great people. We will do that. So to the OIG,
escape the indoors with Cutter Area Insect Solutions. With a range of effective products for your backyard, trust.
What did I do? This is like amazing, like what's going on right now. It's like we got so much fraud. This is all about fraud and waste and the takedown of these entities that have been working together.
exactly that. The American government at its best, making sure all of us work together for the same common purpose, in this case especially, expressly to protect those who are our most vulnerable. Because all great societies are judged by how they take care of those who are vulnerable. We're great people. We will do that. So to the OIG, the DOJ, who's hosting us, the FBI, DEA, and other agencies that are engaged. And let me ask Kim stand in the back. Kim Grant runs, Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Administrator at CMS. She runs the fraud unit, and I will speak about some of the work she and her team have been doing in my comments today. It is, and you'll hear this said by all of us, and we should, the largest Department of Justice healthcare fraud takedown in history. The fact that it's even possible that you could have $15 billion to play in this endeavor is itself shameful. But that's how we're being attacked now, and it's not done by small-time operators. As you're hearing about and you will read about, these are organized syndicates who are designing to hurt America. And why do they hurt our healthcare system? Well, CMS is probably the largest target of all. responsible for about $1.7 trillion of disbursements. So it's a big target on our side. And they can pierce the veil of protection by just getting identifier numbers from our seniors or Medicaid recipients or others. And thus use those tools, use you, the American people, to hurt us. What we're doing today is changing the paradigm. Not just going after bad guys and putting them behind bars, but actually getting ahead of these schemes so the money never leaves our bank account. Because by the time we find out that these criminals have stolen and the money has left the building, it's already offshore somewhere in some foreign country's vaults where foreign leaders are rejoicing in the fact they took advantage of the American people. That's why we use the word crushing fraud, waste, and abuse. Because this is not just a nice thing to do in an accounting pickup that we can claw back money. It doesn't happen that easily. And this is a modern era. There are modern tools being used to attack us, and we need even more modern ways, including AI, which I'll speak about in a second, to take them down. The oversight has to be unrelenting. We can never let our guard down. While we're sitting in here right now, there's hundreds of thousands, probably millions of efforts being made to hack into CMS and our system, and we have systems designed to prevent that, to make sure the people who need us the most will find that we're there to protect them. The CMS Fraud War Room that I want to announce that Kim is going to lead is an effort and an example of this. It's prevented most of the fraudulent efforts to take money out of our agency. So most of the money never left the door, so most of the money was never stolen, even though we know you were trying to do it. When I speak to you, when the president signed that executive order, he put a bunch of sheriffs, new sheriffs in town. And that's what you're looking at on stage today, and many of us who are not going to tolerate this anymore. We're stopping stolen taxpayer money from leaving the door, stopping it in its tracks. Just when I was leaving the room today, the offices today, I was hearing about over $100 million that we've stopped from leaving the agency just in the past few weeks. There are 27 providers that are under active prepayment review, which means we're not going to pay their money until we verify that they're actually doing their jobs correctly. There's examples from telemed schemes in Florida with clinics billing for activities that they're not really, we don't believe, providing. There's a cardiology provider, please help me understand this, who's providing cardiology services in person in Georgia and Nevada at the same time on the same day. Unless teleporting is being made feasible, not possible, but it happens. The audacity to think you could get away with this highlights the fact that folks believe they could have taken advantage of the agency in the past. We're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. Mental health clinics, listen carefully, mental health clinics providing skin substitute placement on their patients. Again, you're dealing with ulcers in a mental health clinic. These services are provided by an anesthesiologist. Improbable. Money's not leaving the building. You're going to have to prove to me that there's a clinical benefit of a psychiatrist telling an anesthesiologist to put a surgical graft on a patient. It's not going to happen. We need your help. That's my big plea. We need your help, the American people. Over half of the whistleblower tips that we get are for healthcare fraud, and over half of the fraud against our government is in healthcare. So we need your help, both to protect your own important information. Don't give it away because con artists come to your door and try to get it, but give us tips. You're going to hear all of us share opportunities that we have, but it only happens in healthcare because we know we have allies, the American people. We provide care to 68 million Medicare beneficiaries. 80 million Americans are on Medicaid or CHIP. There's another 20 million on the exchanges. There are a lot of people that will come to help us. So write this down, 1-800-HHS-TIPS. 1-800-HHS-TIPS. We have URL, obviously, if you go to our website as well. And I'll leave you with one last thought. In addition to the massive fraud, especially from foreign entities trying to invade America using their financial tools and criminal mindsets, we also have 25% of all of our money being spent, probably subject to abuse. And that's not fraud. This is abuse and waste. Money not being used wisely. We just launched a new model called WISER with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation under Abe Sutton that is looking at ways for us to identify inappropriate use of services that are wasteful and should not be offered to the American people because they could hurt them, and they're certainly not providing value for these wonderful Americans whose health is being taken advantage of to generate higher savings, higher revenue rather for providers. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. We're going to use data analytics, real-time monitoring, and unhesitating, unwavering pursuit of the law to make sure this happens. I want to thank my colleagues on the stage and their agencies for all the wonderful work you have done. God bless you.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Christopher Delzato, and I'm the Acting Deputy Assistant Director for the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division that handles healthcare fraud. I want to echo what our speakers have said already and thank everybody who made this takedown possible. Healthcare fraud is not a victimless crime. Every dollar stolen through deceitful billing or unnecessary procedures is a dollar taken away from patients who truly need care and taxpayers who fund these critical programs. Schemes like those we're announcing today drive medical costs up, strain federal healthcare budgets, and ultimately impact every American who relies on Medicare, Medicaid, and other public and private insurance programs. It's also not just about financial losses. It's about patients being exposed to unnecessary procedures, false diagnoses, and delayed care. That kind of exploitation isn't just unethical, it's dangerous and has no place in our healthcare system. We can't tackle healthcare fraud of this scale alone. It requires a united response. That's why strong partnerships are at the heart of what we do. This initiative is part of a strategic and coordinated effort with the Department of Justice's Healthcare Fraud Unit of the Criminal Division's Fraud Section, Health and Human Services, Office of Inspector General, Drug Enforcement Administration, and other federal and state agency partners. From investigators on the ground to analysts tracking intel, forensic accountants tracing financial trails, and prosecutors building cases that will hold up in court, every agency involved plays a critical role. By leveraging these critical partnerships, it allows all of us to share intelligence in real time and connect the dots across multiple jurisdictions, not only in the United States, but around the globe. This initiative brought together expertise from FBI headquarters and 28 field offices across the country working side by side to identify the scope of the fraud and coordinate arrests. From fraudulent billing, COVID relief abuse, and money laundering to prescription drug diversion, these criminal networks are engaged in complex schemes that operate on a global scale, undermining our healthcare systems and fueling broader transnational criminal activity. The investigations announced today speak volumes about our resolve to root out corruption in the healthcare system and hold accountable those who think they can defraud federal programs without being caught. I want to talk about the numbers for a minute because they're not just large, they're impactful. They reflect the scale of the fraud, the reach these criminal networks have, and the urgent need to protect our healthcare system. 324 defendants were charged criminally, including 96 licensed medical professionals, 25 of whom were doctors and charged for their alleged participation in various fraud schemes targeting government and private health insurance programs. Over $14 billion in alleged fraud was billed to Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance programs. Unfortunately, those numbers represent Americans impacted in every state. Behind the numbers is a web of criminal activity that stretches far beyond our borders. The FBI's Operation Gold Rush resulted in the largest amount of loss charged in a healthcare fraud case brought by the Department of Justice. More than 20 members of a criminal organization based in Russia and elsewhere were charged for their roles in a $10 billion Medicare fraud and international money laundering conspiracy. The organization allegedly used a network of foreign straw owners, including individuals sent into the United States from abroad, who acting at the direction of others overseas, strategically bought dozens of medical supply companies that were enrolled in Medicare and located across the United States. After the organization gained control of the companies, it rapidly submitted billions of dollars in fraudulent healthcare claims that were never ordered by doctors, requested by patients, or provided to anyone. In doing so, the defendants are alleged to have exploited the identities of over 1 million Americans spanning all 50 states by using their confidential medical information to submit the fraudulent claims. This not only illustrates just how global these schemes have become, but how advanced and coordinated they are becoming. In Atlanta, 5 people, including 3 medical professionals, were charged with manipulating the price of skin grafts and forcing services on patients that were not medically necessary. In this case, Medicare was scammed out of $760 million. And in Phoenix, we opened an investigation after receiving a complaint about suspicious billing to Arizona Medicaid. It led us to a network of sober living homes that were supposed to be helping those struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, many of whom were Native Americans. Instead, this was a massive fraud scheme that billed for services that were never actually provided. The sober living home facilities owned by ProMD received more than $560 million for services that were not provided. Those are just some of the investigations that were part of this initiative. As these threats grow more complex and transnational, the FBI and our law enforcement partners must continue to evolve, stay ahead of the curve, and meet the challenges with equal force. Reducing federal healthcare spending, stopping fraud and waste, and controlling costs isn't just about budgets. It's about protecting the integrity of programs millions of Americans depend on. And we will not tolerate those who put personal gain above patient care. Remember, you can always report suspected healthcare fraud to your local FBI office or call 1-800-FBI-TIPS. And we count on you reporting those tips. Your vigilance plays a critical role in helping us uncover fraud, protect patients, and hold offenders accountable. Next, I'll turn it over to the DEA.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. Today's announcement represents a landmark victory in the fight against healthcare fraud and the illegal diversion of controlled substances. The Drug Enforcement, alongside our partners at the Department of Justice, FBI, HHS, OIG, CMS, and our state and local law enforcement agencies, took part in this unprecedented national takedown that uncovered more than $14.6 billion in intended healthcare fraud, as well as...
Hi everyone, we're going to leave that and we're going to go back to it because Karoline just came out and she's live at the White House. So we want to start at the very beginning of her briefing. And
hope to see many of you there.
Go back to it.
And the result,
Yeah, so she's live, so we want to join her and go back to the healthcare fraud. Let's see.
1,000 beds to house, process, and deport criminal illegal aliens. This is an efficient and low-cost way to help carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history. We are truly coming off a historic week of President Trump racking up win after win on behalf of the American people. President Trump restored peace through strength and acted decisively as commander-in-chief to obliterate the immediate threat of the Iranian regime's nuclear capabilities, and then brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, which continues to hold. Then, the president traveled to the Netherlands and achieved a monumental win for the United States and the NATO alliance by getting our allies to dedicate 5% of their GDPs to military spending. As a result of President Trump unleashing American energy dominance, summer gas prices are at the lowest they have been in 4 years, heading into the July 4th week. And with the incoming Trump economic boom, the stock market continues to roar back, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ both hitting record highs. And on this point of an economic boom, I bring to you original correspondence from the President of the United States to our Fed Chair, Jerome Powell. As the President has consistently stated, the American economy is booming. And there were so many economic analysts who said that this president's policies would drive our economy down, when in fact we have seen the opposite. We've seen a massive deregulation campaign take place. We've seen inflation completely diminished from where it was under the reckless spending and the bad policies of the previous incompetent administration. I would remind the Fed chair, and I would remind the entire world, that this is a president who was a businessman first, and he knows what he is doing. He has a proven economic formula that worked in his first term as president, and it is working again. The one problem that remains is high interest rates for the American people. The American people want to borrow money cheaply, and they should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we have interest rates that are still too high. So the president sent this note to the Fed chair today. And if you look at this chart, this is a chart of all of the interest rates of many countries throughout the world. At the top is Switzerland. They're only paying a quarter for interest rates. Cambodia, Japan, Denmark, Thailand, Botswana, Barbados, Taiwan, Bulgaria, Cuba, Sweden, Morocco, Cabo Verde, South Korea, Algeria, Canada, Albania, Libya, Malaysia, China, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Czechia, Bolivia, Australia, Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, Bosnia, United Kingdom, and the UAE are all paying lower interest rates than the United States of America, which has one of the hottest and strongest economies in the world. The president sent this note to the Fed chair. It says, Jerome, you are as usual too late. You have cost the USA a fortune and continue to do so. You should lower the rate by a lot. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being lost, and there is no inflation. And the president is right. There is historically low inflation thanks to his policies. And we will continue to drive down the cost of living in this country for Americans. We will continue to deregulate. And it's also incredibly important that we pass this one big beautiful bill, which is the largest tax cuts in American history. And that's why the White House and the president himself have been in touch with lawmakers all weekend long to get this bill passed. And they are working very hard to do so. It remains a top priority for the president. And this bill has exposed the clear differences between Republicans and Democrats in 2025. The Democrats are doubling down on craziness and radical policies that are undermining the very fabric of our country. Just look at the Democrat nominee for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. He's a Democrat socialist, really a communist, who proudly calls to defund the police, peddles anti-Semitism, praises pro-Hamas groups, wants Israel abolished, and believes wealthy Americans should not exist. Those are his words, just as recent as this weekend. Meanwhile, under President Trump's leadership, Republicans are fighting tirelessly for everyday, middle-class, working Americans who re-elected this president, and we're carrying out a revolution of common sense, and all of that is packed into this one big, beautiful bill. It delivers the largest middle and working class tax cuts in U.S. history. It keeps America safe by funding the largest ever one-time investment in border security. It's enough to reverse the Biden border invasion. And every single Democrat is against that, against securing our border and deporting millions of criminal illegal aliens. The One Big Beautiful Bill also strengthens and protects Medicaid benefits, despite what Democrats are saying, for eligible American citizens who rely on it, like pregnant women, children, seniors, and people with disabilities, by eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse that threaten to destroy this program that was intended for the most vulnerable in our society. And every single Democrat in Congress is against rooting out that waste, fraud, and abuse and blocking the 1.4 million illegal aliens who are currently improperly receiving these benefits that should be going to American tax-paying citizens. The Democrats in Congress are more concerned with defending illegal aliens than they are hardworking Americans. And the Big Beautiful Bill also revitalizes our military and enhances our defense capabilities, protects our country from emerging new threats by funding a cutting-edge missile defense system called the Golden Dome. And as we all know, the One Big Beautiful Bill makes the Trump tax cuts permanent. The White House and the president are adamant that this bill is passed and that this bill makes its way to his desk. Republicans need to stay tough and unified during the home stretch, and we are counting on them to get the job done. So, with that, we will take up questions. John Fredericks is in our new media seat today. John, thanks for being here. We'll kick it to you.
Thank you, Caroline. Let's get to the One Big Beautiful Bill first. It
Sure.
appears now you're going to get at least 50 votes in the Senate. There'll be some amendments. What is the president's confidence level in getting 218 votes in the House by the end of this week in order for it to decide on Friday?
Well, look, we are very well aware, the president is very well aware, that this bill needs to not only pass out of the Senate, but it needs to go back to the House, and we need the full weight of the Republican conference to get behind this bill, and we expect them to, and we are confident that they will. The president has been working hand in hand with Senate Majority Leader Thune and also our House Republican leader, or the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, both of whom will be at the White House today to meet with the president yet again. I believe they were here this morning, actually.
I have one follow-up.
Sure.
You outlined Jerome Powell and the note that the president just sent to him. There are many who believe that Powell has been politicized in a lot of different ways. The president has not been shy about acting on things that he believes in. Why not just fire Jerome Powell and put in somebody that is going to lower rates? Why wait?
Well, it's a good question and one you can ask the president because that's a decision for him to make. But you're right to point out the politicization of the Fed, and it's very unfortunate for our country. But Jerome Powell cut rates numerous times ahead of the election when Joe Biden was in this Oval Office, but now he refuses to, and the economy is in a much better place. So there really isn't a good explanation for that, and the president is rightfully calling attention to it. Kelly.
Good afternoon. On Iran, the president posted on his social that he is not even talking to them anymore. When we were at NATO, he said he expected the U.S. and Iran to have talks as early as this week and that he might even want to see a written agreement. What is the update now if he's saying he's not even talking?
So as I told you from the podium last week, I said the administration, and namely our special envoy Steve Witkoff, has been in communication both directly and indirectly with the Iranians. That communication continues. The president himself has not talked to Iran, which he pointed out in his truth statement. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. Does President Trump want Zohran Mamdani deported?
I haven't heard him say that. I haven't heard him call for that. But certainly he does not want this individual to be elected. I was just speaking to him about it and his radical policies that will completely crush New York City, which is obviously a city that the president holds near and dear to his heart.
There's this Congressman Andy Ogles. He wants the Attorney General Bondi to explore denaturalization proceedings because he thinks Mamdani could have misrepresented or concealed material support for terrorism based on rap lyrics he wrote in 2017. Does President Trump think this is a worthwhile use of the Attorney General's time?
Well, I'll let the president speak to that. I have not seen those claims, but surely if they are true, it's something that should be investigated.
And could President Trump see himself, you said you just talked to him about this, could he see himself working with a Mayor Mamdani, somebody who on Meet the Press this weekend was given 3 chances to condemn the phrase globalize the intifada, but he couldn't?
Yeah, look, the president is always willing to work with everyone. He's working with Democrats across the country, Democrat governors, and he said he'll work with people on the far left. He works with Republicans. He works with people in the middle. He wants to do what's right for America, but surely someone who holds these values and is quite literally a communist and condemns every value that makes this country great. Common sense, law and order, low taxes, working hard, and earning your keep in this country. He's against all of that, and I think the president would find it difficult to work with someone like that. If he is elected, I'm sure you'll hear more from the president on that, but we'll have to see. Hopefully the voters of New York City choose wisely. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. The president last on Friday said that he was hopeful of a Gaza deal within the next week. Can you give us an update on any progress towards that, or on any talks that the White House is having with Israel on that?
Sure. Well, I know that Mr. Dermer is in Washington this week to meet with senior officials here at the White House. I also know that this administration is in constant communication with Israeli leadership, and the president himself speaks frequently, as you know, to Prime Minister Netanyahu. But this has been a priority for the president since he took office, to end this brutal war in Gaza. It is because of this president that humanitarian aid is being brought into the region. It's heartbreaking to see the images that have come out from both Israel and Gaza throughout this war, and the president wants to see it end. He wants to save lives, and however, the main priority for the president also remains to bring all of the hostages home out of Gaza. As you know, his tireless effort has brought home many of the hostages, including all of the American hostages who were held there. So he wants to see both things happen, and we're continuing to work very hard to do those things. Sure.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. What is the White House's response to Senator Tillis's criticism articulated from the Senate floor yesterday, which he said passing the big beautiful bill would betray President Trump's promise to protect Medicaid?
Well, he is just wrong. And the president and the vast majority of Republicans who are supportive of this legislation are right. This bill protects Medicaid, as I laid out for you, for those who truly deserve this program, the needy, pregnant women, children, sick Americans who physically cannot work. And what it does is it ensures that able-bodied Americans who can work 20 hours a week are actually doing so, and that will therefore strengthen and protect those benefits for Americans who need it, as well as cutting out the waste, fraud, and abuse, as well as getting 1.4 million illegal aliens off of the program. So all of those measures are actually going to protect it for those who need it. That's the president's position, and that's what this bill does, and that's why Republicans need to vote for it and get it to the president's desk.
That kind of criticism from a Republican senator, is that reason for concern for the passage of this?
No, it's not. We're confident this bill is going to be back at the White House by the 4th of July. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. On the New York mayoral race, does the president plan to make an endorsement? And secondly, on Jerome Powell, a lot of the focus obviously has been on interest rates and keeping them high, but a new controversy erupted today. My colleague first reported that he's facing Chairman Jerome Powell is facing accusations of lying to Congress, which is a potential crime, about luxurious details of the Fed's $2.5 billion renovation project. Senator Loomis has called attention to this. Some experts want him to be investigated. Does the White House want these allegations investigated and, if found substantiated, punished?
I'll have to take a look at those allegations, and I will raise them to the president's attention and let him speak on them himself. To your first question regarding the mayoral race, the president was asked that yesterday by Maria Bartiromo. He refused to give an endorsement, so you won't get one from me at this podium unless he wants me to do that. Phil, go ahead. And then I can go to you.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. The president said that he's working on a temporary pause for immigration enforcement in certain industries. I'm wondering what you can tell us about how he's determining which industries are deserving of a pass. He mentioned farmers, but what about, say, construction workers? I mean, shouldn't there just be one standard here?
I don't have any more details to read out for you, but what I can tell you is that the White House is working closely every day with the Department of Agriculture as well as the Department of Homeland Security when it comes to workforce enforcement, worksite enforcement, and the president's focus and the focus of this administration is, of course, to remove public safety threats from the streets and to deport as many of the illegal criminals, especially the violent criminals that we know are still here because of the previous administration. So that's the main priority and the goal.
And then the president has already made cuts to the office of the Director of National Intelligence, but now Senator Tom Cotton has put forward a bill that would cut the office by another 60%. What's the president's reaction to that legislation, and is this something that he would support, those additional cuts?
I don't know if the president's even aware of that legislation, but I will get you a response if he is aware and if he wants to respond to it. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. You mentioned the dangerous wildlife at the alligator Alcatraz. Is that a design feature? Why is the president going with this mega bill in such a precarious position in the Senate? And then also, can you talk about the CBO estimate that it would add about 11 million uninsured?
Well, look, when you have illegal murderers and rapists and heinous criminals in a detention facility surrounded by alligators, yes, I do think that's a deterrent for them to try to escape. We do know that some of these illegal criminals have escaped from other detention facilities, like one in New Jersey, which I know was recently reported on. So, of course, we want to keep the American people safe, and we want to remove these public safety threats from our streets, and we want to effectively detain them as best as we can. As for why the president is going, I think his trip to this detention facility actually underscores the need to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill, because we need more detention facilities across the country. The last administration let in nearly 20 million illegal people from all over the world, and this administration is focused on arresting and detaining them. But in comparison to that 20 million illegal criminal population in our country, we only have 7,000 ICE agents in the interior who are doing this very important work. And so we obviously need more personnel, we need more resources, and that's why we need to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill.
On the CBO
Go ahead. Yes, in the pink.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Can you just share some details of China trade deal? Has the U.S. agreed to ease some export technology export restrictions?
Sure. Well, the final language that was agreed upon in both Geneva and in London was signed just past week. We can get you that final text of the agreement. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
Even and then behind you.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. So on Jay Powell, has the president got a short list of who he wants to see as Jay Powell's successor, and is he going to name a successor as early as this summer?
I won't get ahead of the president on any announcements on that.
Does he like Scott Bessent for the job?
Again, I won't get ahead of the president.
And on TikTok, if you could, real quick, he said yesterday he's got a buyer, but the question there is, does he have a seller? And do you have any indication from the Chinese government that they've authorized the sale of TikTok to the U.S. or to U.S. buyers?
What I can tell you is that these discussions with China regarding the sale of TikTok have been ongoing at the highest level. And they will continue. As you know, we have another 90-day extension, and it's just to continue to work out this deal and make sure that TikTok stays on for the American people. That's the president's main goal in this, while protecting their privacy and their security. Behind you, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. The president has been calling for a deal in Gaza for 2 days, and many posts. Who is blocking the deal? And one other thing, when he posted on Netanyahu's trial, also, he said it interferes with the negotiations on Iran and on Gaza. What did he mean by that?
I'm sorry, to your second question?
Second question, when he posted about the Israeli Prime Minister trial,
yes,
he said it interferes with the negotiations on Gaza and on Iran. What did he mean by that?
It interferes because it physically and logistically was interfering. The Prime Minister was slated to go to court last week when he's in the middle of negotiating a peace deal and bringing hostages out of a war-torn region. And so the president was simply, I think, emphasizing his empathy that he has for Bibi Netanyahu and seeing him go what he's going through with his own judicial system in the state of Israel. Clearly, the president knows that very well. He, too, was a victim of a judicial system that was trying to put him in jail. As you all know, you all covered it, but President Trump prevailed. That's why he's back in the Oval Office, and he believes that Bibi Netanyahu is a great leader for the people of Israel. The president just worked with him closely to end that 12-day war and to obliterate Iran's nuclear facility, to take out that imminent threat, not just to the state of Israel, but also to the United States of America and the rest of the world. And he believes that Prime Minister Netanyahu should be praised for that. Go ahead.
On the mega bill and the amendment that would limit Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act, does the president want that amendment to pass?
The president wants this bill to pass. Meredith.
Hey, thanks, Caroline. On trade, we have this looming July 9th deadline coming up. We heard the Treasury Secretary say that he expects to wrap up these trade deals by Labor Day, but when President Trump was asked yesterday about any extensions by July 9th, he said he didn't think that would be necessary. So is the president ruling out any extensions on trade for any nations, even if they're negotiating in good faith?
Well, you heard from him directly. He said he did not think that it would be necessary. He is going to set the rates for many of these countries if they don't come to the table to negotiate in good faith. And he is meeting with his trade team this week to do that. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I just watched a CNN segment on a new app called Ice Block, and it kind of appeared to be promoting this app where you can tell people where ICE agents are. Given the recent rise,
An app that tells people where ICE agents are?
Yes. And given the rise, I believe 500% increase in assaults on ICE agents, I wanted to see if you could comment on that and why CNN would be promoting such an app.
Well, it's a very good question. I'll have to go back and watch the clip myself, but surely it sounds like this would be an incitement of further violence against our ICE officers. As you know, as you stated, there's been a 500% increase in violence against ICE agents, law enforcement officers across the country who are just simply trying to do their jobs and remove public safety threats from our communities. And that's something we as Americans, including journalists at CNN who live in many of these cities where illegal aliens are hiding and were let in from the previous administration, should be very grateful for. So we haven't seen the clip. We'll take a look at it, but certainly it's unacceptable that a major network would promote such an app that is encouraging violence against law enforcement officers who are trying to keep our country safe. Shelby.
I just wanted to get a clarification on the Senator Rick Scott's amendment. It sounds like the president is agnostic about whether it's attached. Is that accurate?
Look, I'm not going to get into the details of the discussions that are ongoing right now. But the president wants these senators to come to a conclusion, to get this bill back to the White House as soon as possible and make sure that it's a piece of legislation that can make its way back through the House as well. So obviously there's some ping-ponging between both sides of Capitol Hill right now, but that's why Senator Thune and Speaker Johnson are working with the president in lockstep every step of the way. In the back, news station, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline.
The
president did
and then in front of you, yes.
The president did announce last week that the trade deal with India is closed and this could happen anytime soon. Are there any roadblocks as of now? Are there any updates on that? And how does the president see this about China's role or its influence in the Indo-Pacific region?
Sure, yes. The president said that last week and it remains true. I actually just spoke to our Secretary of Commerce about it. He was in the Oval Office with the president. They are finalizing these agreements and you'll hear from the president and his team, his trade team very soon when it comes to India.
China? How do we counter China on that front?
Yes, I mean, look, India remains a very strategic ally in the Asia Pacific, and the president has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Modi, as you know, and he will continue to have that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. On the reconciliation bill, Senator Tillis from the floor yesterday seemed to suggest President Trump was getting bad counsel on the effects of the bill. Is President Trump aware of the analyses, and there are several of these, that suggest if rural hospitals potentially close, if there are Medicaid patients in the millions that become ineligible for that?
Yes, and that claim is just simply untrue. Rural hospitals comprise 7% of all hospital spending on Medicaid, and that illustrates that they have not benefited from the massive increase of waste, fraud, and abuse under the Biden administration. So this bill strengthens Medicaid. It will protect those benefits that hardworking Americans need, and that's why the president wants this bill to pass. The senator was wrong. The president put out a Truth Social post addressing it, and then the senator announced he's no longer running for office anymore. So I think that case has been closed, and the White House is continuing to focus on getting this legislation to the president's desk for his signature. Go ahead. Yes, you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, you and then you. There's confusion here.
The Syrian government get back to you that they are ready to join the Abraham Accord. Is there any discussion with the Syrian and Israeli government for having a security agreement? This is the first question. And the second question, what's the end goal for talking with the Iranians? Is that only focused on the nuclear program, or are you willing to speak about the other issues like the proxy groups and ballistic missiles, or even trade with Iran?
So as for discussions between Syria and Israel, you'll have to reach out to those respective governments. I can't comment on that. But what I can tell you is that this afternoon, the president will be signing an executive order to terminate the United States sanctions program on Syria. And this is in an effort to promote and support the country's path to stability and peace. The order will remove sanctions on Syria while maintaining sanctions on the former President Assad, his associates, human rights abusers, drug traffickers, persons linked to chemical weapons activities, ISIS and their affiliates, and Iranian proxies. And this is, again, an action that the president promised and shocked the world with in Saudi Arabia, because he's committed to supporting a Syria that is stable, unified, and at peace with itself and its neighbors. The president met with Syria's new president when we were in the Middle East, as you know, and so this is another promise made and promise kept by this president to promote peace and stability in the region.
Thank you. Questions on two topics, if you don't mind. I will start with NTD here. First, on Canada. Canada says it's now dropping its digital services tax on American tech companies days after President Trump says he's halting on trade talks with Canada. First, what's the president's reaction to this? Can you tell us more about his call with Prime Minister Carney over the weekend? How did he get Carney to drop it? And also, what's the impact on American tech companies given this latest progress, as the president says he has been fighting for American tech companies?
It's very simple. Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America. And President Trump knows how to negotiate, and he knows that he is governing the best country and the best economy in this world, on this planet. And every country on the planet needs to have good trade relationships with the United States. And it was a mistake for Canada to vow to implement that tax. That would have hurt our tech companies here in the United States. The president made his position quite clear to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister called the president last night to let the president know that he would be dropping that tax, which is a big victory for our tech companies and our American workers here at home.
And on Harvard, if you don't mind, the administration today formally accused Harvard of violating civil rights laws by not doing enough to fight anti-Semitism. We know that the president has talked to us before about Harvard potentially having to deal with administration in the coming days. Do you have an updated timeline for that? How is the negotiations going? And is more pressure needed for Harvard to take fighting anti-Semitism seriously?
Well, there was quite a direct letter that was sent to Harvard this morning, as you know. The negotiations are taking place behind closed doors, so I won't comment on that. But what I will share with all of you, for those who haven't seen it, is the context of this letter, because I think it's very important. And this comes from the Department of Health and Human Services, which concluded after a thorough investigation that Harvard University is in a violent violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin. And if you read some of the content of the investigation and what they found, the majority of Jewish students reportedly experienced negative bias or discrimination on their campus, while a quarter of Jewish students at Harvard felt physically unsafe. Jewish and Israeli students were assaulted and spit on. They hid their kippahs for fear of being harassed and concealed their Jewish identity from classmates for fear of ostracization. Images were widely circulated amongst the Harvard community that trafficked in obvious anti-Semitic tropes, including one that showed a dollar sign inside of a Star of David, and the campus was vandalized with anti-Semitic stickers, including one that showed the Israeli flag with a swastika. The Harvard campus was racked by demonstrations, as you all know, violent protests that violated the university's rules of conduct. The demonstrations called for genocide and murder, denied Jewish and Israeli students access to campus spaces. These are all facts that Harvard cannot dispute, and that's why the administration has found them in violation of Title VI and has threatened to withhold their federal funding, because if you break federal law, you should not be receiving federal tax dollars. And so I rest my case on Harvard. Andrea.
Yeah. So President Macron of France earlier today said that tariffs levied by powerful countries are often a form of blackmail, and criticized the sort of process that's underway. Didn't mention the United States specifically, but said that these tariffs are really hurting developing countries. So there's this big UN conference going on. What do you say to that? What is the president, was he aware of that comment, and did he have any response?
I think the president and the White House would certainly reject that characterization by Prime Minister Macron. Tariffs are an effective use of presidential power to bring back the middle class, to bring back our manufacturing industry, which was the backbone of our American economy and has been hollowed out by globalist politicians who have caved to foreign countries instead of doing what's right for American workers. That's why the president is effectively utilizing his authority to wage tariffs and to utilize tariffs, and continues to be in discussions and negotiations on trade to do what's right for America. And Europe and the rest of the world might not be used to that, but President Trump is back in town, and he's going to do what's right for our people and our country.
Can I just follow up on Netanyahu? So there's a report in Israeli media that the Prime Minister will actually be here, that Netanyahu will be here today meeting with the President. Can you confirm that?
I don't believe Prime Minister Netanyahu is here today. I think you guys would know about that by now. Unless there's something going on I don't know about, but I don't believe he is. I do know he has expressed interest in coming to Washington and meeting with the President, and we are working on a date for that. I do not believe it is today, but that would be fun. You never know in this White House, let's be honest. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karoline. Does the president support this new measure in the big, beautiful bill that would impose steep new taxes on new wind and solar projects?
I believe you're referring to the credits for wind and solar projects. And
what about the new tax? There's a new tax that it's estimated would add 10 to 20% to the cost of any new wind and solar projects that start after this year.
Again, I don't want to comment on the specifics of provisions, but I'm sure the president will speak on that directly. Again, this is an ongoing process. The president continues to be very much engaged with the leadership in both the Senate and the House to get this bill back to his desk.
Did the president ask for that provision? Because the National Building Trades Union is saying that it's the equivalent of terminating more than 1,000 Keystone XL pipeline projects. Is that something that would concern him?
Well, the president spoke on this yesterday in his interview, and he said he understands that legislators want to protect jobs in their communities and in their districts. And so he understands why some of them are against this provision, but he also understands why people want the provision. So again, this is an ongoing deliberation and discussion, and the president is engaged in this very much. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. We've been hearing from White House officials for weeks that you're close on trade deals with a number of countries. Can we get any update on which countries will have deals by the 9th and when they're making any announcements?
I'll let the president and the trade team speak on it.
Can you respond to the CBO estimate that the Senate bill would increase the deficit by nearly $3.3 trillion?
This is one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation that has ever made its way through Capitol Hill. There's $2 trillion in mandatory savings in this bill, and not only that, the projected growth that this bill will bring to our economy. It will be an economic boom. The Council of Economic Advisors has an analysis that shows that the bill will generate $4.1 trillion in economic growth, and it will cut taxes, putting more money back into the American people's pockets. That's why this president wants this bill to pass, and I know he's busy working the phones and doing what he needs to do today to make it happen. So we'll see you all later. Thank you. We'll see you in Florida. Thank you.
Wow, what do you think? What do you guys think?
That was great.
I mean, that was amazing. What do you guys think? Do you think that President Trump is doing a great job? In the chat, put yes or no, because a lot is going on this week, even with the Congo and Rwanda, them trying to come to a peace agreement after having a ongoing war for 30 freaking years. Over 6 million people have died.
Do you think he's doing a great job?
I do.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, let's see what they're saying. 6 million people have died. They said this is the second highest rate of death since World War II. And he's bringing these two countries together, and they said no other president tried to bring an end to this 30-year war. I mean, this is...
I gotta ask him a question. Who was better at
They
president?
say no. Some people say no, yes, no,
I'll
yes.
ask this question. Who was better at president, Joe Biden or Donald Trump?
Donnie is running, yes, the Congo. So we have some, I don't know how anyone could say no, especially when they're talking about the Congo and Rwanda. I mean, I don't know how it's possible to say that he's not doing a good job in that aspect. It's like, it's unbelievable that anybody could say no in regards to that. He's, hell no. I mean, it was, you stretching? It's a 30-year war, that cost the lives of 6 million people. Trump signed in the Oval Office yesterday, or a couple of days ago, they signed a ceasefire, and the presidents are coming in July, later on July, to the White House to meet with President Trump, and President Trump administration want to hold them accountable to make sure that they continue peace. But 30 years, 6 million people, and people talk about Gaza genocide. That's a genocide.
Carlito, so you think that CNN and NBC and ABC are the unbiased media? You're saying that we just watch Fox News biased. What news do you watch, dude? Because all them other news stations are completely biased. Every news station goes against Trump. Everyone.
Go ahead.
Even Fox News sometimes go against Trump. Everyone goes against Trump. What's the unbiased news station that you're listening to?
Well, if they said that they listen to CNN, MSNBC, you know all black people, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, Meet the Press, Morning Joe, Rachel Maddow, you know, we were here for it.
Carlito, that's not my question. My question is, what news source do you watch then?
Yeah, what's your news source? Because we watch everybody, everyone.
You listen to social media and watch people?
And I had refused to listen to Fox News or any other news source other than those ones that we just mentioned.
Now he's saying that we can look it up for unbiased news source. That's because you're watching CNN, dude, and ABC.
Yeah, for to make the comments. But like someone said, like, who cares about the Congo? We all should care about what's happening in the world. We all should. If you are if you serve God or have any, don't say you're a Christian. Please don't say that you're a Christian. You're saying like, who cares? These people were being slaughtered. 6 million people brutally murdered. Kids, women, not soldiers. We're talking about 30 years. And Trump is the one that brought them to the table, that has taken action, and they want to nominate Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah. And at this point, irregardless whether they stop fighting or not, after 30 years, which we pray in the name of Jesus that they do, he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, because there's no other leader that I know of in the world that's seeking peace like Trump is. So tell me what other leader that's seeking peace like Trump is, because like Biden and them, they were the ones that allowed Ukraine and Russia to go into war because of their weak administration. That was a perfect time for Putin to declare war in Ukraine, but they allowed that war to go on for 3 years and they said nothing. They didn't have any communication. They didn't try to stop the war. They just kept sending our taxpayer dollars over to Ukraine so they can continue fighting an endless war, because neither one are winning at this point. It's an endless war. They did nothing. Trump had to come into office to even get them to come to the table. Then the war that was starting in Palestine and India. Those are nuclear countries. You want to say who cares? We do. Because when you start talking about nuclear wars, that affects all of us. It's not just it's going to affect that region. It will travel throughout the earth. It would affect all of us. Our food, water, everything would be affected. Trump stopped them from going into war. Stopped them from going into war. Then we had the 12-day war with Iran, and Israel. If he didn't put in that order to take out that potential nuclear site, then they were on their way to having nuclear capabilities. And this is something that all the previous Democratic presidents had commented, said that we need to stop Iran from having nuclear power. After a while, people are going to reach their goals. So they were at the doorstep of reaching that goal. Trump did that too. So
no one's angry, guys. No one's angry. We're happier than ever that Trump is president. No one's angry.
So I think that's a lot. I just said just a few things. The man only been in office for 5 months. So tell me, what did Biden do? What did Biden do? What did Obama do? Obama dropped 26,000 missiles. And nobody has nothing to say about that. Obama opened up the borders and deported more people than anybody else in the United States history. Even put kids in cages. Nobody protests. There were no hands off. There was no 50-51. There were no Kings protests. None of that went on. None of that went on. So it is hilarious to me. And this is coming from someone who has always voted for the Democratic Party. Like most black people, we're guilty, 93% of us. We just continue to vote for people that make promises, and now they stop making promises. They just give us entertainers. But they keep telling us how suppressed we are. But their behinds are the ones that have been in office. So if we're so suppressed, why haven't they done anything about it? Why haven't they done anything about it? They've had power out of 12 of the last 16 years. Why didn't they do anything to get us out of the depression? Why didn't they do anything to get us out of what's going on?
You saying that, it sounds like you eat shrooms, dude.
They've been in power. That's what I don't get. They were selling us a song and dance while they are in power. Make that make sense. The same song and dance, but you guys were in power. What did they do for us? What did they do for black people? What did they do for anybody? They've been in power.
Talk about the former press secretary.
And you tell the former press secretary. What did she do? She hightailed it far away from the Democratic Party. Within 4 months after Trump had taken office, she said, look, I'm no longer a Democrat. I mean, she denounced that party. She had to get up there and lie. The press secretary has ear to the president. If anyone knows what's going on, it's supposed to be the press secretary. She's supposed to speak for the president. Why would the press secretary, after 4 months, leave once Trump became the president of the United States? Why would she quit her party?
You feel like replying to this?
What? That's crazy.
Carlito said, "What does Trump do for black people?"
That's a great question. And I want to ask you, what has Biden done for black people? What has the Democratic Party done for black people when they're the ones that have been in charge? We even had our so-called first black president. What did he do for black people? Tell me, what did Obama do for black people? What did Biden do for black people? What did Kamala do for black people? What did Clinton do for black people? What did Hillary say she was going to do for? I mean, these people were the ones that been in charge. They've been in charge. And they still was saying the same crap. While they didn't give us an anti-hate crime bill, they didn't bring money into our communities. They didn't increase the job ratio for black employment. They decreased. They even brought people in to replace black people now. They gonna lie to everybody, oh, they're not here. They brought in another bowling block. If you look at every construction site, every you go to construction sites, you go to car washes, you go landscaping, it's all illegal immigrants. That's who have the jobs that were formerly worked by black people, because black men are, because of Joe Biden, who's so wonderful that he did a mass incarceration of black people. Woo-hoo for that. He took the men out of the household, but when they get released after serving bogus 30, 20, 25 years, then those are the jobs that they would normally get.
I've seen a lot of people in the chat say, what did Trump do for black people? Just look up the Trump's First Step Act and how much money Trump has given to HBCU, so they don't have to keep coming back every year asking for money. You want to tell that story?
Yeah, look, Biden locked black people up. If you take the head of the household out of the house, what's going to happen to the children? If the man's not there to guide his kids and he's not there to bring income into family, what happens to the children?
Then they join gangs for
What happens to the children? Because this is Biden. Biden said that they were beyond the pale. He said that we were super predators. He said beyond rehabilitation, lock black people up, throw away the key, don't even rehabilitate. He was telling the judges, no matter what crime they committed, whether it was petty, whether it was misdemeanor, lock them up and don't let them out. And that's exactly what they did.
They're on the streets with his daughter and wife.
Exactly what they did. Okay? And that left the black female mother to hold down the household, which left the kids to manage themselves. And guess who became a family? The streets. Because they offer money, they offer the things that they want that their mothers couldn't buy. And then once they get caught, because eventually committing crime, you eventually get caught, then they wind up going before that same judge that locked up their father. And then they give them 30 years. They'll take someone 20 and give them 30 years.
Shiva, all Obama did was help gay people.
That's what Joe Biden did to the black family. And this is why they're Democrats. They are the Democrats, right? They're the Democrats. Thank you. Kamala did the same thing.
Yeah, Carlito, you're just a liberal.
She's a Democrat, right? She locked up black people. She tried to get a few executed. Tried to get them on death row. She didn't even want to do the DNA test because it's a big deal, your DOJ, to get a notch under your belt. But, they did the DNA and found the people innocent.
Shiva keeps saying, what did Obama and Trump do for people's thoughts? And Obama raised up kindness for people.
Oh, kindness don't get you jobs. Obama wasn't kind to black people. He didn't even focus on us. Obama mission, and whoever's running, really, when Democratic leaders are in office, they're above Obama. Even Biden didn't run this country. You know that. We all know that. And I used to think it was Obama. It's above Obama. Whoever's doing it was controlling, opening up the borders and the stuff that's transpired that we're going to have to deal with for the next 20 years that they did to this country. They literally destroyed the country. Obama mission, and he was put in office to be the president of the LGBTQ. You know, he started all that, Pride Month and all that. That was, they're getting so far away from God that literally that was his mission, to go against what everything that God represents. In most religions, they're not into same-sex marriage. I don't care if you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, no matter what it is. That was a party of sin. That is sin. It's sin. Yeah. They want you to accept sin. Sin became popular. That's what Obama. They had him to push that agenda. He didn't do anything for black people. He did nothing for us. Nothing. It was President Trump that had the First Step Act passed in Congress. That came from Trump, not Obama. HBCUs, Trump knows, and he's smart to know that everybody has to do well for this country to flourish. He has been investing into the HBCUs. Especially now, we got to do a live showing the things that Trump has in mind for the future, even about HBCUs, getting more money for technology for us to move forward. Because we all have, you can't have one segment of people doing well. We all have to do well. So we've had all these Democrat leaders, and what are they doing now? Do they talk for you? Do they say anything about you? Do you hold them accountable? How come they're not coming out with a health care plan? How come they're not coming out with a Medicaid plan? How come they're not coming out with a plan for housing or inflation? That's their job. You don't even think it's their job. Their job is not just fussing and fighting and getting everyone angry over some bull crap and allow them not to do their freaking job. Y'all, we giving them a pass. And as long as y'all got hate and gaslight, they supposed to be coming up with some solutions.
You saw all those people.
Solutions.
You saw those people Biden gave a pardon to. Those
Crazy.
Iran people.
It's crazy.
What was he trying to do?
You know, for people to be asking this man has done more in 5 months than Obama, Biden, all them put together. And guess what? None of those Democratic parties did a damn thing for black people. How about that? But they tell us, oh, you need that welfare, you need that SNAP, you don't need opportunity. And guess what? We got a bigger plan. We got black people on lockdown. They're going to vote no matter what for us because they mother voted for us. So we're going to bring in some new voters. We're going to give them the reparations that they didn't earn but refuse to give that to black people. That's what they do.
To the one person asking about the economy, just like Karoline said, you could look at Trump's former track record about what he did to America's economy last time he was president. The thing about Trump is you can compare to when he was president before.
Inflation is low now. Everything is working. And people talking about the tariffs, guess what? That's our bargaining chip. Why are we paying? She named Karoline when she did her press briefing. She named all these countries that aren't paying. We're paying. They're not paying. They're paying way less than Americans. Why is that? Why are we being overcharged? Y'all got a problem with us not being overcharged? All these fools been in office and allow these countries to take advantage of America. Y'all good with that? That's why we $36 trillion in debt, right?
Carly, so you're obviously a liberal.
It doesn't matter with them.
Probably
it doesn't matter.
Probably a legal immigrant, honestly.
It doesn't matter because the truth will set you free. And the truth is the truth, and there's nothing you could change the truth. We could look everything up. You can fact check everything. You can look at other content creators. You could go on whatever news program that you feel as though that's delivering the truth non-biased. That's what we try to do. We want people to work for us.
No, he's saying.
And we want our leadership to work together, not apart. Y'all just want the Democrats to be over here, Republicans to be over here, and just go at it while they do nothing for us.
Shiva, then what do you call these people that keep protesting Trump like every other day? Is that not
anti-Americans.
bad and angry and hateful to you? How's people who support Trump bad, angry, and hateful,
They are
and not the
very-
protesters?
They are so anti-American, it's not even funny. Angry about what? Everything that administration did to this country that Trump is trying to clean up. They act like Trump been in office for the last 4 years. They caused all this bull crap, and it was them. They had the power. They had the power. But you're going to keep on. You don't want to hear that. Democrats been in. What did the Democrats do for us? Open up the borders, cause high inflation, cause the economy to be out of whack. They did all that. 2 wars, open board. They did all of this. But you don't even blame them. And fight Trump every step of the way, trying to clean it up.
And Kamala did a lot of sick things. Kick those Christians out her rally. Have an
Yeah.
abortion clinic at her rally. She did a lot of sick, god-awful
But
things.
some people rather be miserable. It doesn't matter what you say. That these people are supposed to be working for us. Congress is supposed to work for us, not against us. The Democrats not coming up with any legislation, not doing their jobs, is not working for us.
Now they're spamming January 6th.
Who cares? That is so dead and gone. Don't nobody care. That's been explained. Nancy Pelosi, you should be mad at her. She should have sent in the National Guards like it was requested, and she refused to do that. She had to admit it. Don't nobody care. You know? Don't nobody care. They gonna go, they'll be doing this for 30 years. One day, 30 years. Some people went to jail, but it's all right for
Americans.
non-citizens.
Yeah.
They were Americans. It's all right for non-citizens to try to take over a city like Los Angeles, fly their flags, burn our flags, and they ride for like what, 5 or 6 days? What was that? January 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th? So we're gonna do January 6th with Americans acting a fool, but we got non-citizens that's trying to take over our country pretty much. And the people that are illegally here, but you're not gonna say, what about those days? They were hitting and beating on cops. You try doing it. I mean, any American, you try doing it and see how much time, if you live to speak about, you try doing that to the cops.
Someone said we can't work harder than non-citizens.
Well, where have you been for the last, 400 years? Black people have done it. 400 years, and that was without pay. All right? Nobody else can say that.
Yeah, Carly.
We built this nation. So stop telling us that 20 million people in the last 4 years. We already had immigrants here. But they're different than the ones that just came in. The ones that just came in act like we owe them something. Like they're entitled to our taxpayer dollars. Like they're entitled to our health care. They're entitled to free housing. They're entitled to free education. They act like they have some entitlement instead of being grateful.
Yeah, like someone said, so much TDS and leftist tears. You're right, yo. Someone said they built the nation, not you. Now she was saying.
It's okay. It's okay. Were your people a slave in this country? Because the only slavery that happened in this country was for Black Americans. That's it. And that's why now Trump is saying that birthright ain't even going to fly with illegal immigrants or people coming in the country trying to have children for citizenship. That was written specifically for Black people. That was for us.
Yeah.
For us. That was a misuse of what it actually represented. But he's cleaning that up as well. But we built this country off of free labor. We were whooped, tortured, talking about being ripped from your parents and your kids. Black people were sold on selling blocks, okay? We've been through it. Nobody, but we didn't even act up like these people. We was here 400 years before we got upset about a Rodney King watching George Floyd being literally murdered in front of our eyes before we actually rioted and got upset. But it took us 400 years.
Wow. The sad thing, this just shows us seeing the comments shows us just how powerful the mainstream media is. It's like, when will they get it? When will they get it that the Democratic Party is not for them? It's not for Americans. It's for illegals.
Well, everybody knows that Black people were were put in slavery in this country. Everybody know that we were imported, and everybody know we built this nation. The only way this nation could have become great like this and be like it is because of the free labor that was off the backs of Black Americans, and we still going through stuff. And we've had these Democratic leaders and presidents that haven't done a damn thing for us. How about that? Nothing. They haven't done nothing for us, but they want us to keep voting for them. Not 2028. Half of us are going to vote for Republicans.
Oh, we got a black guy angry in the comments.
Half of us.
Devin.
Well, maybe he didn't go through the night. Joe Biden probably didn't lock him up then because he did a mass incarceration. Our people, what we did, souls to the poll, put that man in office that did a mass incarceration of our black men.
Devin, you gotta
We're
wake up.
Dumb.
You gotta wake up, bro.
We are so freaking dumb that it ain't. Jesus be back before we actually get it together. Google it. Just Google the Biden's. He's the author of the 1994 crime bill. It still affects us to this day. And it was President Trump. Google that did the First Step Act that benefited us.
John Miller, you need to research slavery.
We don't
of Africans. I have nothing but respect for Native Americans. They've been through a lot, just like my race.
You know, so we're not going to hear people that are any opposite, because you know what? The truth is the truth, and no matter what you said, the majority of Americans voted for Trump. The majority of Americans, exactly what we're saying is exactly what they're seeing, exactly how they feel. So all that jumping up and down, trying to gaslight us, and we not supposed to believe what's going on, that what happened throughout this country. We see the administration. Biden wasn't even running the country. We all can agree on that.
So people in the chat, why did you vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? Like, what was the reasoning? What made you think Kamala was a good candidate? And we can reply to it and see what your point is.
Nobody wanted to have that crazy, non-speaking freaking Kamala who could not even speak to Fox News. She is not a leader. We would be doomed if she was president with what's going on outside the country, internationally, and what's been happening internally inside this country.
Shiva said,
no way she could handle the pressure.
Shiva said the fact of the matter is slaves did help build this country, but that is not who you are. That is not your history and ancestors, not you. It's like stolen valor.
It is our history. It is my ancestors. It is. What are you talking about? One thing y'all not going to minimize what black people went through in this country and how we were sold into slavery. There's no other immigrant or anyone can say that. So we don't want to hear it as far as black Americans. We don't want to hear it. None of y'all were put in slavery. None of y'all went through being sold on slave blocks and sold and lynched and tortured. None of y'all went through that. None of y'all had to work from sun up to sundown until you died. They could do anything to us. They could, for Sunday service, they could lynch a black person. There was no laws protecting us. They could take your child and rip that child from you and sell it to someone you never see your child again.
Look what they did to Emmett Till.
That's the truth.
Some evil things.
That was Ku Klux Klan was from the Democrat Party. That was the Democrat Party. A lot of this history are for these same people, that black people that we vote for and that we support. And then when we say, oh, hold up, let's look at policy, let's see what's really going on, then they like, oh, what's happening? They're getting off the plantation. They're not going to vote like they supposed to. Keep voting for stuff with no result. That doesn't make sense. We keep voting for a party that's been in charge, and they saying the same bullshit they've been saying for the last 30 years. And they've been in power. They've been in power. They've had the House and the Senate, and they still haven't done nothing for black people. We can't even get a freaking anti-hate crime bill. But they gave the Asians one. We can't get anything. No justice, no peace. That's what it is for us. And Trump is the only president that has taken any type of positive action to benefit us. Those are facts. Look it up. Y'all look it up. Don't just talk out of your behind. Look it up. Look up what Trump did with HBCUs. Look it up. Google it. Ask chat. GPT. Look this stuff up.
Shiva, you still said the same thing. You're saying that is our history, but we aren't a part of the slavery ancestors when we are, because those are our ancestors.
How can we not be, and it's our ancestors?
That makes no. She's saying it's like stolen valor, saying that.
You know what? You're lost, and you obviously aren't black because you really aren't making any sense. Yeah. We're not even going to entertain that. Don't even give that any energy. Don't even read it. They want to talk to us. They have to super chat us for us to respond.
Because that's saying I read it.
Yeah, wrong. Well, don't let them spam. Just you about to be bounced off. You don't have to spam if you're not making sense. You're not making any sense. We're giving too much time and energy. Well, anyway, you guys, we're going to be uploading. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe. We're going to get off of here. You can leave comments if you want us to respond to after the live stream ends. And we did start a Speak the Truth 2.0 Instagram. We got to start posting stuff on it. But we're going to start putting things on it. And we are going to do a contest that's soon to be announced because you got to make goals. So our goal is to have 100,000 subscribers. And we want to have a contest that, we select 3 winners from subscribers that they can win monetary gifts. So, or you guys can make a suggestion for a gift or whatever. So anyway, don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe, the notification bell. And we are going to be doing some uploads. So do the notification bell. So it's a lot of different stuff we want to put out there that you guys can comment on. We're probably going to do an upload today on
you want to reply to this comment?
A few things. And for future, people can super chat us. I want to go ahead because I want to get off of here.
Honestly, I voted for Kamala because I liked how articulate she was in the debates regarding her future plans for the country.
Please tell us what that was. Because we still waiting to hear what that word salad was talking about. Because they kept her quiet for 2 months. She talked 1 month, briefly, barely, and always with a script and a teleprompter. So she had no policy, she had no direction, she stood on nothing, and talking about a king. She was the king for the Democrats because you didn't even vote for her to even be in a primary to run. How wonderful was that? She was selected for you. She couldn't even talk. She had nothing was there. So I guess you were for tampons in the men's bathroom and men and women's sports and same-sex marriages. And guess what? Her biggest campaign was abortions. Even at the DNC, while you trying to nominate candidates, they was giving people, eliminating babies at a freaking conference. How beautiful was that? Lord, help us all. Help us all, Jesus.
Oh, sick.
Help us all, Jesus. But anyway, God bless you guys. Beloved above all, I wish that thou may prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prosper. You can continue this chat. You can leave the comments. We will respond, and we're probably going to upload later on. But you guys enjoy your day, enjoy your life, and we need to come together. I'm tired of all this divide. The election is over. He won. Trump is the president of all of us, not just the red, the blue. He's the president of independents and non-voters. He's the president of all of us. All of us. And Congress is supposed to represent all of us. Not just the Democrats, not just the Republicans. All of us. And they need to do their job. They need to work together for our benefit. And that's what I feel that what we need to reach is working together. And as long as the Democratic Party, all that gaslighting, all that hate, all that lying, we give them a pass to do nothing. They need to work with the current administration. on our behalf. Whatever they don't like, okay, come up with a better solution. How about that? How about that? Do your job. Do your job that you were hired to do, or somebody else need to fill your seat. I'm tired of nonsense. One nation under God, work together, one president at a time. 4 years, vote again. God bless you. Enjoy your day. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, notification bell, and you